With 4 months left in 2025, micro, small, and medium enterprises, 99% of businesses, over 60% of jobs face growing pressures. Q2 GDP rose 5.5% on stronger spending, lower inflation, and easier credit. But global risks loom, from the 19% U.S. tariff to a possible 100% duty on semiconductors. At the same time, flood control projects and uncovered budget irregularities and suspiciously similar contracts are putting a spotlight on how corruption and delays in infrastructure impact our competitiveness. Now, joining us now is a top voice in the Philippine business community, Negosyo founder, entrepreneurship advocate, and the chairman of the ASEAN Business Advisory Council Philippines, Joey Concepcion. He's here to talk about how the private sector can drive economic growth, strengthen regional trade links, and push for clean, effective, and transparent infrastructure at a time when competitiveness and good governance are under global scrutiny. Hi, Joey. Thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Okay, Joey, 4 months left into the year. Are MSMEs keeping pace with the 5.5% growth in Q2, or is the recovery uneven?
Well, definitely our MSMEs, especially our micro and small entrepreneurs, are definitely coping. And the economic atmosphere that I see is pretty good under the leadership of President Marcos. And we in Negosyo, which has been around for 20 years, we are mounting all over the country mentoring programs, basically which we call the 3M on wheels, which is mentorship, money, and market. The 3Ms are essential tools for MSMEs, especially micro, to be able to scale up from micro to small, and eventually some of them from small to medium.
Yeah, you've been with MSMEs holding up their hands for over 20 years, Joey. Can you give us a beat on the street currently? Interest rates are down, credit growth is growing. In this environment, are our MSMEs getting easier access to financing?
Definitely, together with the DTI's program of really providing access to funding, and of course, access to market is equally as important, and access to mentors. So this whole ecosystem has to be supported by the big brothers, big companies like ourselves, RFM Corporation, Ayala. All of the big companies should really help our micro and small to scale up. And they are doing that with our efforts in Negosyo. We have, in an event, for example, on a Saturday, we would have close to 100 plus mentors mentoring our micro and small entrepreneurs. So that's very essential. Access to money is there, but it will not work if there is no access to mentors to guide them on how to scale up. And that's a proven model. We have seen it. We've seen a lot of micro moving up to small, and small moving up to medium. And that the big brothers, the big corporations in this country are really finding ways and means on how to also help them, either to funding, to Negosyo, and many other. And that's why the ASEAN, which we will be hosting for the second time. The first time was with President Duterte in 2017. So 2026 will be a big year, because the theme of the ASEAN Business Advisory Council, which is the private sector, will focus on really the theme of prosperity for all.
Yeah, two main things, financing and the mentorship and education. Going back to the financing part, Joey, looking ahead, the BSP is signaling 2 more rate cuts by the end of the year. How much would this help MSMEs on the financing front?
Well, definitely, as interest rates are going down, it will help the MSMEs. But remember, many of our micro entrepreneurs operate at higher interest levels because, of course, the risk factor. So many of the microfinance institutions would lend at a higher rate to cover for in case of any fallouts in payments. But this is good news, especially as the country's the central bank is slowing down the interest rates. It will help definitely the MSMEs, especially the micro and small. The medium and large, they can very well take care of themselves. So, but more than access to funding is access to mentors, because they can be funded, but if they're not guided properly, and it will just go to waste.
Absolutely, and we really need the private sector for the education and the mentorship side. Joey, going on to another front, with a 19% tariff already in place and a possible 100% duty on semiconductors, how exposed would you say our MSMEs are to this, either directly, indirectly?
Well, in the semiconductor, the micro entrepreneurs are not in that field. That's really for more big business. We were once in the semiconductor business, so we exported to the United States, etc. It's a huge. I mean, it's a challenging business because you're working and supplying companies overseas, especially in the United States. But the way I look at it, of course, the 19% tariff. I mean, what can we do? I mean, U.S. controls the gate valve, no? And we don't control that. But we have to be able to manage through all of these challenges and be able to continue to propel the economic growth in the Philippines.
Yeah, propel economic growth in other ways. In light of these tariffs, Joey, do you think that we should accelerate our pivot towards ASEAN markets, especially ahead of the Philippines' 2026 hosting of the ASEAN Summit?
Yes, in fact, this afternoon we will be meeting about 8 ASEAN ambassadors in a meeting in preparation for next year. And what's very important is ASEAN is 10 countries, no? And not all of them are in the level of Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. So the Philippines is definitely, as a host country for next year, will really pound on the importance of ASEAN being more united, 10 countries working as one, not 10 countries moving in different directions. That's why America is very powerful because they have, 48, 49 states. The Philippines and ASEAN is basically about 10 countries together. So scale is needed for us to be able to bring down our costs. And that's why we have a program that has been launched, the ASEAN Food Security Alliance, which will be a legacy project of the ASEAN back next year. But we have started already as early this year to bring the big brothers of the Philippines in agriculture, meeting up with the big brothers in Malaysia, Myanmar, Indonesia, etc., and then Cambodia, Vietnam. And that collaboration will not beat the level of the 50 states of America, but in other words, you need to have size to bring down your cost. And sharing of talent, sharing of resources, and pulling our efforts together within the 10 ASEAN countries will be able to scale up and be more competitive. And that has been done. We have launched the ASEAN Food Security Alliance early this year.
Yeah, unity is key. So much to gain from collaborating with the ASEAN. Joey, you mentioned that you're going to be meeting with 8 ASEAN ambassadors soon. Can you tell us which ones, and perhaps, if you can, what's on the agenda for that meeting?
Well, the agenda, we have, of course, invited Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia. In the ASEAN countries, their ambassadors will be meeting us. In fact, we're holding it at the Hyatt Hotel 2 p.m. this afternoon. So the basic idea is to share with them, since the Philippines will be hosting. So this is the only international event at this level that President Marcos will be able to experience, hosting the ASEAN, because after this, it will move on to another country. You know? So we really want to make it big for President Marcos and to really come out strong on what his vision is. And unity is key, because through unity, as all ASEAN countries work together in one sector that we would like to see, because many of our big brothers in ASEAN are quite strong in agriculture, in agribusiness. The Philippines is still moving up, but we need to share best practices of each country. And that is the whole effort of this meeting, that next year when we host, we want to make sure that it is not for just show. In other words, we're putting enough time and effort to really plan for a great execution of the ASEAN event in 2026.
Yeah, it's going to be a great springboard for regional cooperation, Joey. On another front, I wanted to ask you about a big issue that is making the headlines, flood control and corruption. The president's probe into flood control projects revealed budget irregularities, suspiciously similar contracts, and unclear project scopes. As a key voice in the private sector, Joey, what do you make of these findings?
Well, I think that is the right approach. I think, needless to say, there is corruption happening in this country. I mean, it's a fact. But the objective is to find ways and means to bring the level of corruption down. I don't believe that we can ever, do this overnight and eradicate corruption, as quick as that. I mean, we have to really bring back the values of, having one big heart for our country, and unless that really comes into place, then corruption will continue. But I'm hopeful under this administration, a lot of effort is being done to tame it down and hopefully lessen it. The private sector ourselves are really focused on growth for this country, because without growth, there will be no prosperity for our MSMEs.
Yeah, this was a big move by the president himself to bring it to fore and to actually name names with the actual companies, the 15 companies. Joey, can you describe the current level of corruption in the Philippines right now, second half 2025? How big of a problem, how widespread is this from your perspective?
Well, I'm not so familiar in that space. I know that corruption has existed for so many years now. And the dream is to eradicate it, but let's be practical. That might take a long time. But I think what the government is trying to do is streamline the whole process. Under the administration of President Marcos, he created a private sector advisory council. So this is composed of private sector people like myself, who I lead the jobs committee, that are putting efforts on trying to find ways and means to smoothen the whole process and the government bureaucracy. In the private sector, we are able to stop corruption because we own the business. We run the business. And in government, of course, people who work for government, they don't have shares of the company they work with. No? So it's a different story in the private sector.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, as the president mounts, his campaign and keeps talking about it, I think it will tame it down.
Absolutely. Speaking of the private sector, infrastructure titan Ramon Ang has a proposal to desilt waterways. It's reviving the conversation for PPPs. Do you think PPPs are the key to addressing corruption while delivering faster and more effective flood control?
Definitely, because let's put it, the private sector is really has the best businessmen on board. No? Why? Because they own the company. Government people, they don't own the company, though we work for the company. So there is a difference there. Because it's when you started your company, there is greater passion. Not to say that government employees have no passion at all. There are many of them who have passion. But the private sector, the rewards come back to us through profits, sharing the dividends with our shareholders. So the shareholders of the Philippines are the citizens of the Philippines, of course. No? So if the government does well, the citizens get better opportunities, better roads, infrastructure, and all of that. So it's similar in a sense. But remember, we get a profit bonus, we get dividends, we own the company. But of course, government people, they don't have that because they are basically employees of Philippines Inc. No? So there is a difference. There is, of course, greater motivation as an entrepreneur to scale up. Now, I'm not saying that government people are not motivated. They're also motivated because of if they attain a good job in let's say they're a secretary of education or whatever, and they do well, they get it in building their name. No? So hopefully, under the leadership of President Marcos, he will be able to drive our government partners in really trying to achieve the level of prosperity that will help our MSMEs. No?
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned that. The private sector is very invested. They've got the name, they've got the brand, they've got the legacy businesses. Very interesting point, Joey. Last question. What is the single most urgent step you'd like to see this administration take in the second half of the year to boost the competitiveness of the Philippines, especially ahead of the ASEAN, our hosting of the ASEAN Summit in 2026?
Well, I believe that the ASEAN Summit in 2026 will be our battle cry, and this will be I would say, the president will have to leave office when his term ends. So we have to support him succeed in his remaining term. And 2026 will be the best rallying point when we host the ASEAN and when we bring the other countries, and of course the United States and the India and all the other presidents and prime ministers will be coming for the finale in the 2026 in October. So we should make that as our battle cry, that support President Marcos. Let's try to achieve as much as we can by providing greater prosperity for all our people, especially our micro and small entrepreneurs who are struggling out there. They have a small business. We need to help them grow. And the private sector, big business, is definitely committed to see it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal, greater prosperity for the entire Philippines. Thank you so much, Joey, for everything that you do with the ASEAN and on the MSME front.
Thank you.